a little west of Philadelphia I was born and raised. What's up, everybody? It's your boy Retro. I'm starting a new series called Silly and Philly. And my first guest needs no introduction. The Godfather of G1 Transformers art, Mark Watts. I was lucky enough to meet Mark Watts at RetroCon this year. Hope you enjoyed the interview I had with Mark. He's an awesome guy. Well, thank you for joining. I appreciate it, Mark. I met you at RetroCon. And really cool dude. And I understand you have one boy and two girls, Justin, Brittany, and Amber.
Justin's 24, and I mean, work, geez, goes fast. And the girls are 30 and 31. Wow. So 5 grandchildren, 5 grandboys, and 1 girl just born a few days ago. Nice. So it's put over here at the Transformer Illustration Factory. Everything's going well. I met you over there, and it was nice, and everybody's so nice. And I get a lot of nice compliments. They say you were part of my childhood and all that stuff, and it's a little unexpected, but it's kind of cool, you know?
Oh, absolutely. You're an icon. You're going to go down in history, Mark.
Right. I got a cool thing the other day somebody sent, and it said, I know I spent hours in the toy aisles delighted looking at your illustrations, and it was playtime, bath time, every time I played with my Transformers. And it was just cool, you know, because you could tell. And it was a girl, and that she was reflecting back on, like, when she was probably 7 years old, you know?
Yeah, that's really special. I mean, not to get too much into the world today, but the main reason I collect is this nostalgia. It reminds me of a simpler time and when things were a lot more peaceful in my life. And man, the art, I still have, like, you know, the original cards.
Yep. They're from when you were a kid, right?
Right. Now, this is a new one, right? So this is just the toy. There's no art. See, this is your art.
There's no art. It's a photograph, and they're doing everything. Well, as life goes on, they do everything cheaper and, you know, without as much caring or whatever, which is kind of a shame. Since I'm in the studio here, I'm going to put on this one light. I'm going to walk over here, and I would have kept more of my, I don't know if you can see okay. I don't know if it's bright enough, but there's the boxes you just showed me. Can you see them in the back there or not? Really?
Yeah. Are they the original?
Yeah, they're the original. They have KB toys on them. $2.35.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so, but I had all the prototypes. Here's some of the other toys. These are my boxes, of course.
Nice. Shockwave Manosaur, Devastator.
Some of them, and you know, the book that's there. And these are some toys that are out because I'm working on a couple commissions.
Cool.
They're big commissions, and they're pretty cool because people that are collectors, you know, want to make their own illustration that they dream up in their head. So that's pretty cool.
That's awesome that you do that, Mark. Very awesome.
Right. So that's what I'm working on right now, a couple of them.
So I have a couple questions here. What was your favorite toy line growing up?
Well, you know, that's a tough call. I do have a James Bond, which is sitting right over here. I don't have it pulled out, but you can actually see it on one of the shelves. It's in the back there. That's the James Bond 007 attaché case from when I was probably 12.
Oh, awesome.
Still intact. So I thought that was really cool. I like James Bond, and, you know, I like the toy lines. When I was a kid, it was like more singular toys. You know what I mean? There wasn't you know, like Transformers is a line that keeps on going. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there wasn't a lot of that. You know, it was like one single toy, and then it was something else. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's I know exactly what you're saying. Now, what age did you get into art, and when did you realize that that's what you wanted to do as a career?
Well, I actually went to Bucks Community College. I live in Pennsylvania, and I didn't really know what I always drew. Always, I liked Peter Max, and just, you know, I always liked art, and I always drew in class. I was always dreaming or drawing the teacher or something, you know. But I really wasn't great in studies because I was more into art. And when I got done, I figured I went to college for art, just a community college, and I met a guy, Alan McGee, who was a working illustrator in Manhattan. And he had the class up to his studio one day, and he was up in the kind of the woods in a running brook, and was next to his studio. And he worked in there all day, working on these great illustrations for books and whatnot. Yeah. And I thought, that's what I want to do. If I could stay at home and not fight the rat race and all the crap that you drive and take crap from a boss and all that, and I could just make illustrations. And I didn't even care if I made that much money, just as long as I could do what I wanted with my own time. You know, it's real peaceful. You know what I mean?
Oh, sure.
And that was my first thing that I said, hey, you know what? I think I might be able to do this. And then I followed. That was the dream that I followed from that. And I was pretty committed. So I actually went to college for 3.5 years. I never finished. And I thought I knew all that I needed to know. And of course you get better when you leave school if you're really committed. But I was pretty committed. Like if I got a project, a lot of times I would do 2 projects.
Okay.
Finish.
Very cool.
So, you know what I mean? I spent a lot of time. As now thinking back going to school, it was fairly hard to become a professional illustrator. You had to have a lot of due diligence and take no for an answer, and, you know, it was very difficult. I would go to New York once a week and show my portfolio all around Manhattan, and I think it took me like 3 or 4 months to get one job.
Wow.
So it's pretty difficult.
Yeah, definitely, I would say. Now, did you do well with the ladies with your art skills in school?
Yeah, I always had my fair share of success. Yeah. I feel like, yeah, and you know, I don't know if art plays, but being an artsy type of guy, I think plays into that.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? By like just doing the art and how you dress or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, I was an art major, and I didn't do well with the ladies at all. They didn't give me any time of day.
Well, wait a minute. It's a little bit about the gift of gab, too, you know.
Yeah. I was like, get a little shy, I guess, you know.
Yeah, well, we all have that, you know. But you can overcome that a little bit.
Let's see, my next question. So let's go back to the 80s. How were you approached to do the art for Transformers, and what were your thoughts?
What really happened was I had an agent in Manhattan by the name of Mendola, and he was a nice agent, a very great guy. And let me just plug this in. Sorry, great guy, and he was my agent for many years, probably 11 years or so. Mm-hmm. And he had connections with a lot of the toy manufacturers and all in New York, and I did a lot of car illustrations. Of course, mine was mostly airbrush, and I worked with Dr. Martin Stiles on white hard pressed board. And I had a lot of shiny metallic stuff, and the job came up for the first 6 Transformers. And I assume I was a good fit for that because I did a lot of cars and very reflective stuff. So they showed my stuff, and they liked it too. Hasbro. It might even went through an agency and Hasbro both, and they liked my stuff in there. And I did actually the first 6. That was the G1 with Bumblebee and Huffer and all that. They were actually the very first 6, and they gave me prototypes, but they wouldn't move. They were glued together in one position, so I had to kind of make it up and draw it. So I made it as interesting as possible, and how I did that was exaggerated perspective. And if you look at the boxes, or when you look at some of my prints, I have them set up so they're put together. And somebody said something one day, it looks like they're all doing dance moves. Really look at them together, it kind of does look like that. Because they couldn't move too much, because I didn't want to go too far away from the toy.
Right.
You know, and I wanted to stay in the realm of just... So the excitement was really made with fourth perspective. You know, and how shiny the toy was. I often say, I remember when I was a kid, I would, go in the toy stores, and I like toys as much as anybody. I still love toys to today. So I remember getting the toy, and I bring it home, and I go, Mom, this doesn't look like the box. Remember you had the toy? You said, you complained to your mother, this doesn't look like the box, or your dad, and so you get ripped off a little bit. Well, I'm the guy that ripped off the kids a little bit. I made it look so great on the box, but it could never look that good when you take it out of the box. But really, but that's my job, to make it look great. And a lot of the people in turn hung up the boxes and all, so they loved the boxes, used it as artwork in their room, which was cool.
Oh yeah, you see, I'm a big fan of your work.
I see you have a lot of my stuff up there. I see a number of my boxes. When as I said before, I didn't know it was how do you know it's going to be a great success? You don't know. And I did so many toys, and most of them aren't. And Transformers was a great idea. Actually, what I said is I would have paid more attention and not let my 5-year-old son play with all the prototypes in a big box back there somewhere. I do have them in there in pieces. Some of the prototypes and some of the original ones. But, and there was, which I was looking for, a Bible that I was given that when you draw, not about so much the drawing, but it would give the layout and where to use the colors and that stuff.
Really?
Pretty thick. It was maybe it was like 300 pages or something.
Wow. That would be cool if you found the prototypes in that Bible, take a picture of them.
I'll do that, but to tell you the truth, I don't know where the Bible went. I looked for it. I can't quite find it. It could be in here. I have stuff in here in my other house in Florida, so I think it could be somewhere. It will turn up one day, I'm certain.
Cool.
But a pretty big house and a lot of illustrations. I probably have about 400 originals.
Wow. That's a lot. So, how many drawings per bot did you do before submitting the final draft?
Well, I always work the same way. I sketches with tracing paper, and it got better every time I put the next tracing paper down. Do you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So, there's your rough drawing, and then it gets a little cleaner, and then it gets a little cleaner, and I could have went through, who knows, depending on the project, but I could have went through, 15 drawings, 15 full drawings before the tracing paper on the last one was getting very clean. Then I would show that, I would put it on, take the tracing paper and put it on a white piece of paper and kind of mount it and send that in. Of course, there was no email or anything, so I would actually take it in myself into Manhattan, and I would meet with the agency or the toy company, whatever I did. Some jobs went through an agency, and some went through people at the toy company. So anyway, then I would get approvals, and there would be occasionally, there wasn't a lot of changes. Usually my drawings were pretty good, and they liked them. So I would take it from there, and then I would draw on the other side of the drawing, and then I would transfer it to a cold illustration board. And then it would begin with pretty much everything was frisketing. It's like Scotch tape, but not as sticky, but in big. So every time you see a line somewhere, it was pretty much frisketed. I said I cut enough frisket to go around the world 2 times. The illustrations I did. I think there was about 50 illustrations just for the Transformers, but I did so many other toys and whatnot.
That's awesome.
Yeah. There is one other thing that I should bring up. You were asking about the sketches and whatnot, but also it's important to know that back there in the day around 1982 or so, I was working primarily with Dr. Martens dies and Luma dies. And the reason that's important is because you couldn't really hand paint with them. They were too runny, so they had to be totally airbrushed. But the cool thing about them, the bad thing is they would fade if you left them in the sun. As long as you keep them out of the sun, they'll last forever. But they were so brilliant, and it shows through on the toys. Because you have the whiteboard shining through, and it's almost impossible to get that with paint. So it almost looks like it's lit from behind. And if you look at some of my stuff, it almost looks like it does almost lit from behind. And it's because it's done with dyes.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, it has a different look to it than paint.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
So how exciting is it for you to see your timeless works of art reissued in Walmart?
Well, that's pretty cool. It would be cooler if they paid me again. But you know, that's the way they work. You know, actually, the construction set were issued for Bradley's, and they were all in orange. You know that. The construction set was issued again, and they were all orange, specially for Bradley's. You know, Bradley's. Remember when they used to be around? The department store, which they're no longer around. And then they were, I think he made in yellow too. So no, it's pretty cool. Actually, I didn't do the Comic-Cons or anything. I was busy working on other illustrations and all. And it's not till recently that I was invited to do some of the Comic-Cons. So it was a nice thing, you know, that my stuff is iconic because, you know, it was before the franchise was even around. So it's kind of cool. Yeah, and so it's fantastic, you know. I put a post up occasionally, and, you know, but now I'm on some, you know, followed by some Facebook groups and whatnot. So it's surprising to me to put up a post and you get like, you know, 500 hits. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, you are very much appreciated, Mark. Absolutely. In the Transformer community, you're like the Godfather.
Right. You know, some of the other guys that I worked with in the very beginning worked on. I didn't do the back. You know, the one that's on all the backs. David Sleinkoffer and another gentleman, Jeff Machad. He worked on the backs, and they worked on a bunch of stuff. But I worked on, I think, more pieces because I did the singular bots. Do you know what I'm saying? I did all the bots, the singular. I did them on a white background. But I worked pretty large, like 30 by 30 inches, so I put a lot of time into them. Each piece, I guess each one maybe took me maybe 2 weeks or a little less, so that's a long time on one piece. But I put a lot of detail in it, you know, and I was working with an airbrush, so you have to work pretty large. So therefore, maybe I did maybe the most for one guy, illustrator, at that time.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt there was a lot of care put in your art. Absolutely. Now, I understand that you have actually taken on a unique angle to your art recently, and you've transformed your art into a transforming piece of art. You have it on the wall, and then you can make it into a table. I think that's amazing. I love it.
Yeah, well, that idea I was in New York and at my daughter's apartment. She had no space, and I gave her some metal art, and I'm there, boy, this would make a great table. And, you know, you think, and then you say, wait a minute, it could be 2 tables, it could be a coffee table, and then that's when I start playing around with it, and I said, somebody's got to have a patent on that. And to my surprise, nobody ever had a patent on it. So I got 2 patents. One's static, where you can change the art and holds 4 pieces, and I have a second patent that I'm not doing just yet, but it's digital. So it could have all my 50 pieces of Transformer art on the table. So you could set it so when you get up when you get up in January, piece 1's on. Then January 2, second piece. So it's constantly going through the 50 pieces.
Oh my God, Mark, I love that idea. That is awesome.
So, and then if I do a new piece, you subscribe and you will get it. It'll just show up through your Wi-Fi.
That's awesome.
And it's just going to show up. So you get up one morning and it's there.
I love it. That's amazing. I love it. I'm sold.
That's the second idea. And that one will have a charger for a couple phones in the table.
Oh, that's cool. Like ports.
Yeah, ports.
Awesome, man. Very
so
cool.
You can hook your phone up to it or whatever.
Right.
Or if you're at a party, you can take a picture, and if you're in their Wi-Fi, you can send, like, take a picture of one of the girls that are at the party or whatever, and send it to the table while people are there. That's pretty fun, right?
Yeah, I love it.
All snacks are on there, and then you send somebody's picture to the table.
You're like, hey, what's that on the table? That's
you don't tell the guy you're going to do it. Face is on the table.
Right. That's great. That just takes it to whole nother level.
Right. So that's another future thing that I'll be working with.
Love it. You have great ideas, Mark, and you're taking, your talent and expanding it into the new digital era. Not to take away from the original. Nothing beats original where you can actually touch. And then that's the problem with today. No one touches anything. Everybody has everything digital, and they think they own things, but they own nothing.
Right. Everything's digital. They make it digital. It does look a little softer, and even computer-generated stuff is cool, but I feel like in some ways the robots almost got so complex that, do you know what I'm saying? They're almost too complex to see what's going on. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, before I go, I had some friends that participate on YouTube and whatnot, and I asked them if they had a question they wouldn't ask you.
What's up, Mark? Mike and Kate here. I was a huge fan of the Transformer artwork on the boxes that you did back in the day. Used to look at them all the time. Very cool. So my question is about that artwork. Did you just have a animation model that you worked off of when you were doing your paintings, or did they give you some kind of idea of the traits and the personality of those characters? I was kind of interested to see if you just went based on looks alone, or if you got some of your ideas for the poses that they were in based on maybe what kind of character they were. So that's my question.
Great question. Actually, believe it or not, when they gave me the characters, they didn't really go into, like, make this character, this is their personality or whatever. They didn't even go into that. They said, hey, look, we know what your work looks like. Make this look really cool and very exciting. So, and I knew the way the toy, by them telling me, and I could see the prototype, the way it was put together, even though it was static, I could see how it could move, so I pushed it as far as I could. It was a great question, but no, they just said make it look really cool and menacing. So that was pretty much it.
Hi, Mr. Watts. It's Cato from Cato's Toy Box, and I've noticed that in a lot of your art that you love to draw and paint classic cars from the 50s. Beautiful artwork. I love it. But I was wondering if that made it more fun for you to draw the Autobots versus the Decepticons. Seeing as how you obviously have a love for vehicles, did that make the vehicles more fun for you to paint and draw?
That's a great question. Yes, I'm drawn, I would say so, because I'm drawn to cars anyway, and I've always loved cars. Even when I was young, I had some cool cars. I had a 71 Thunderbird with suicide doors when everybody else had, like, I don't know, regular cars. And it had the first first sunroof, and it was snakeskin, the roof. That's how it came from the factory.
Nice.
It was like etched snakeskin, like a stamp. But anyway, so the question is, yes, I was preferring to, I love cars that turn into robots. That's really my favorite, of course.
Who doesn't like that, right, Mark?
Right, exactly. What's more fun than that?
Hey Mark, it's Rodimus Primal. My question for you is, of all the different Transformers characters that you have done the box art for, which one are you the most proud of?
That's a good question. I would say that one of my favorite is Shockwave. The art I did, it was very large. It was about probably, I would say 35 inches by maybe 30 inches or 27 inches. So it was really large. And I think that was one of my favorite pieces. But also I liked all the first six. So the G1s, the first six, and Shockwave. And Jetfire came out pretty nice too.
Yeah. I didn't even realize it until I talked to you at RetroCon that the that white mark on the Shockwave box. It didn't color it in black like the background.
Same one that I have on my new piece that I showed you. That was a knockoff, which leads me to believe somebody got a hold of the molds.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Well, it seems like it's pretty heavy-duty plastic, and it's made decent.
Yeah, I was surprised that I didn't realize that stamp was in there until
somebody told me to look at that and double-check it, and you verified that it was there.
Yeah.
Hello, Mark Watts. My name is Alex Yu, and here is my question. Since 2007, we have seen 6 Transformers live-action films, with 5 of them being directed by Michael Bay. And in those 5 films, the design aesthetics for the robot characters have been vastly different from their G1 counterparts. Now, let's say 10 to 15 years from now, Hasbro decides to re-release the movie toys in an anniversary commemorative edition toy line, and they have given you the task to redesign the box art for these characters. How would you go about approaching this project? Now, keep in mind they have given you full creative control, so you can do whatever you want. Would you give it a design aesthetic that's similar to the G1 box art, where the characters are kind of like lunging with their weapon in their hand, so it has a more retro feel? Or would you do something entirely different? Let me know, and thank you for your time.
If I were to do it again and use the original robots, it just struck me. I think it would be cooler to do nostalgic, and I think you could even get away with doing it based on the other characters, but doing it digital. And I could say it like this: do it like Toy Story.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Where they're not, what do I want to say? They're retro, but, you know, you could, because to draw it by hand would be so, it'd be crazy. But to do it digital, you know, like Toy Story, they have a real great story, but it kind of somehow almost doesn't look digital as well. Do you know what I mean? Like the new robots, you could tell they're digital right away.
Right.
Do you agree? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Cool if it was done more retro, I think.
Hey there, Mr. Watts. How you doing? My name is Matthew, also known as Deluxe. It's what my friends call me, so you can call me that if you want to. All right. So, thank you so much. It's an honor to ask you this question with so much Transformer history, and you're part of it. That is so awesome. So yeah, my question is, how has the technology changed since you started drawing to now? And is it good for it? You know, is it good for the artist? Is it a lot easier? Or would you just rather go back to, you know, the way you started and everything? And where do you see the technology going, for, you know, further on for other artists as you and, you know, other artists and everything? So, yeah, sorry, I kind of got tongue twisted there, but hope you like that question. Thank you once again for answering it. And I guess I'll see you later or something. Good night, folks.
That's an interesting question, and I'm going to tell you the answer in like a couple parts. Okay. Hey, back in 1980 and even before that, everything had to be done hand. You take 100 people, let's say. Okay? Let's say 1,000, whatever. Take 1,000 people, and you have to do it by hand. Of them 1,000 people, I'm guaranteeing you, to put the time and the effort and all this, there's only 100 people that can do it well. You take 1,000 people and want to do it digital, not 100 could do it. So, now you're not getting the money. Back then, for an illustration, you would get maybe anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000 a box. It's a lot of money, right? You can't even get that today. And the reason you can't get it is too many people can do it digitally. So it kind of ruined it in a way. Not ruined it, but also I believe when people have to do it by hand, more care is taken. And it's a real learned skill. And so I just believe it was a higher quality, okay? Because now today, they're taking photos and they're retouching them up and they're airbrushing on top of them and the thing. So it's not really drawing from the baseline drawing. They're taking what a photo could do and just manipulating it. You see what I'm saying? And they're getting away with what they can. But in the defense, they don't want to pay it. Like when Photoshop came in, like Photoshop says, "Oh, this is going to be good for illustrators." Well, it really wasn't, because now everybody's an illustrator. Everybody who has Adobe Photoshop is now an illustrator. So what they used to do was funny back in the day. That the ad agencies would have a guy in the back, and the illustrators got hurt a little bit on getting work when Photoshop came in. So what had happened was they would try to do it in-house with a Photoshop guy that was maybe okay. And then when he failed and they have to send it to the client in like 4 days, they would call up the illustrator and say, "You got to do this. We only have 4 days. I'm there. This is for BF Goodrich. What do you mean you only have 4 days? This is a huge project." "Well, we'll pay you $10,000 if you can do it." Because they burn up all the time trying to do it in Photoshop and saving all the money. So then the guy, well, I've had jobs where they, it had to be done in like 4 or 5 days, and I would get like $10,000.
Nice.
Nobody could do it, but you have to work overnight. It was a crunch, but you would screw them because they were screwing you anyway, because you knew they tried to do it in-house. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that was, he was asking about, I got off track a little bit and got a little far in that, but that changed. But what was nicer when you did illustrations digitally, could go in and have this complicated illustration of whatever space scene for Transformers. Not much of my Transformers stuff was ever changed, but a complicated scene, I would go in and the art director would be there and goes, "You know what? I don't want a day scene. I want a nighttime sky." I changed my mind. Well, that was like 3 days worth of work to change to a nighttime sky. In Photoshop, that's like an hour.
Right.
So that was good. That type of thing made it better, but there was pros and cons to them both. In the future, you won't do it by hand. You're going to think of it, and it's going to draw itself. You're going to have probes on your brain, just like they have stuff out there now. I read a lot of books from scientists and all, and right now they have stuff that you can have thoughts and control things with thoughts. And do you ever have a dream, and the dream is so real that you get up? I have dreams all the time that are so real, and it's like almost an illustration. I had one the other day. It was like the Swiss Alps or something, but it was so real. I actually made some drawings of it when I got up, and it was like the Swiss Alps, and all these buildings all had crosses on the tops of hundreds of buildings, all in the Swiss Alps, and I kind of did a drawing of it. But I think that you'll be able to think of that when you get up or whatever, and you could actually imprint that. So I think in the future, we will be able to use thought to make paintings.
That's scary.
Further away from everything, but I think that's someday for sure that's where it's going to go.
I don't want to see what my mind draws up.
Yeah, great. I believe that's probably at some point in the future we'll be able to do that. I don't know if it's anytime soon, but look 100 years ago they weren't even driving in cars.
Yeah, they're still not flying. I don't think we're ever going to have flying cars because people can't drive cars on the ground. Can you imagine an accident in the air?
Will be flying cars, and I think that they will be like Teslas, and the future Teslas are going to talk to each other. So if you're in your car and I'm in my car's going to talk to you, and I know that you're going to make a right. So if the car's in the sky, the GPS will talk to each other, and they will never put you in their airspace. That's what will happen.
Wow, that's deep.
Yeah, well, it's true. They can do that today.
Wow.
With cars.
Like I said before, you're like the godfather of the G1 Transformers. You're very well respected, and there's a lot of love out there for you and all your work. I collect Transformers, as you can see, and I go after the box art because that's part of the nostalgia for me. When I opened it up on Christmas morning or I saw it in the toy aisle, that's just all part of the experience. And I guess this is the closest I can get to a time machine, is the collection, you know? So
It is the closest to a time machine. They are fun to look at and have in your house or office or whatever. That's for sure.
yeah, and a personal thank you so much for everything. I mean, and I can't believe I actually met you, how cool you are, and we live in PA. So your studio is in Doylestown, right?
Yep. Stop up sometime.
Yeah, I would love to. I would love to get one of those tables too, because I would love to do like displays on that those tables. Oh my God! So yeah, I gotta come up and see your studio.
I have one of my tables you can see, but it actually has all the Transformers on it.
Nice.
But you know what you could do? Be pretty cool to have a table that actually fits a certain amount of Transformers, so you can make the base artwork of the table fit the scene.
Oh, yeah, that is nice. Kind of like a
You know,
diorama. Like a,
Yeah. So okay, this guy goes here, so it makes a 3D scene. Would be pretty cool.
I like that.
And then you could have different scenes that you slide in.
I love that.
Yeah, that would be cool. Yeah. So as you see, I'm always full of ideas.
Yes, you are, and they're good ideas too.
Footage there. All right. Well, hey, listen. Thank you for visiting today. Stop up the studio sometime. Get yourself a table art with some cool art, and promote my stuff, guys, out there. And go to my website. Check out the table art with some cool Transformers stuff. And I do commissions. I'm working on a couple right now. So the Transformer painting of your dream can be yours, with your initials down in the corner for helping design it.
Oh, that's awesome. And I will definitely post your website, and I will definitely promote you, Mark. You know, and again, thank you for taking the time. And I look forward to talking to you again in the future.
Okay, call me anytime. We'll do this again. And signing off, cheers, everyone. And talk to all yous at the next convention somewhere.
All right, Mark, thank you. Take care.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night.